This is an Opentoonz overview for 2025. So first off, we have three basic layers that you can use in Opentoonz, which is the raster layer, um the toonz raster layer, and the vector layer. So vector layer draws mathematical shapes, um while the toonz raster and raster layer are pixel-based objects and drawings. So the first tool we have here is the animate tool. Animate tool is used to move objects around and change their origin. And by the way, the animate tool doesn't only move objects around, it also changes their orientation. Like if I move this around and let's say I rotate it around its origin, it doesn't just move the object around, actually moves the entire layer around. So we go to the selection tool, which is used to select objects. You see the selection is rotated based on how I rotated the object with the animate tool. To reset everything, just go to rotation and input 0 degrees. You can go to the position tool and make my my x-axis 0 and make y 0. So there it is. We can also turn off this keyframe to reset everything back to normal. So the next tool is a selection tool. As the name implies, it basically selects, moves around. You can skew using the control key. You can skew, control Z. You can shift to scale, and you can do other stuff too. This tool also works for toonz raster level. But remember, when you scale, it doesn't turn out as good as you expect because it's a pixel-based program. So be careful when you're scaling with raster. So next you have the brush tool, which is basically used to draw. I'm on toonz raster now, as you can see. I'm going to name all these layers. So at the moment, I'm on toonz raster, and the brush tool basically draws. That's basically what it, that's basically what it does. And when I zoom in, you can see that it's pixelated. Okay, so next we have the next tool. The brush tool also works on vector layers, as you can draw seamlessly, and this makes lines way smoother as they have no anti-aliasing, which means there's no blur attached to them. The next tool is the geometry tool. So the geometry tool only best works for vector layers. You can use it on the other layers too. So we have rectangle right here. Okay, you have circle and other shapes that you can play with. While for the let's go to the raster layer. The raster layer you can also use the geometry tool with all these shapes here. Okay, let's go to the circle. We have a circle here, but the circle here will be pixel based. So the next tool, we have the type tool. The name implies the type tool basically means to type anything on the screen. Cannot be used on raster. Okay, but can be used on toonz raster and vector layer. So so just type something is very easy. That's basically what it does. If you're not satisfied with the font, you can go here and change the font to your liking. So the fill bucket tool is basically used to fill spaces as the name implies. So if I go to my vector layer, I can fill in these spaces. Let's color the fish, let's give it a reddish orange color. Here, I can make the bubbles, sorry, I can make the bubbles coming out from its mouth, give it a bluish color. And that's basically what the fill tool does. So for the toonz raster layer, the toonz raster layer is you can also use this tool on the toonz raster layer. I can fill up this place, and there it is. The fill tool also works on the raster layer. So if I have an enclosed shape in the raster layer like this, I can easily go ahead with my fill tool and fill it up like so. I can change the color, fill it to a different color, and you can play around with this. So the next tool is the paintbrush tool, which is only used on Toon's raster layer. So what this does, it basically draws on areas. Like, okay, I'm going to change this color to the purplish color. Basically only draws on areas. This is good for shading if you don't want your shading to cross the line. It only draws on areas. You can make it to only draw on lines. Like here, only drawing on the black line, and that's basically what it does. You cannot use it for vector or raster. So right here we have the eraser tool, which is basically what it means to erase. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Works on raster too. Works on raster. You can erase stuff. Works on vector. You can erase this. You can erase this, and that's basically what it does. The next is the tape tool, which only works on vector. The tape tool basically takes 2 points of any vector shape and combines them together. I combine this and this together with the current color selected, which is blue. It just combines the two. That's what the tape tool does. If I have two things that seem incomplete and I want to combine them, take this. Um, there's nothing here that isn't combined. So you can take this and this, for example. It just draws the line and combines them. Yep, that's what it does. So the next tool was the tape tool. The next tool is the finger tool. So the finger tool, I haven't found any purpose of it. So and I've never used it in animation before, so I don't think you would ever need it. So moving on, we have the um the style picker tool. The style picker tool is useful for it cannot be used on raster. It can be used on Toon's raster, but it cannot be used on it can also be used on vector. So what this tool basically does, it's you pick a color. Okay, let me go to Toon's raster. I pick the okay my current selected color. I'll make it purple. But if I pick the blue color, it's blue that is now selected. Similarly to vector, there are two colors here. I have this one selected, which is 0, is not a color. If I tap this brownish reddish color, it's what's selected here, and then I can use it to draw different things. Okay. So next up, we have the RGB picker tool. The RGB picker tool can only be used on raster, on Toon's raster and vector. It doesn't work on raster. Oh, it can also be used on raster. My apologies. It can also be used on raster. It can be used on all three layers. So it basically does a very similar job to that. But what it actually does is changes your selected color into the color you tapped on the screen. So in this palette, I want this blue to become this because I want to paint with this color and it's on the vector layer. I tap it and it turns into that color, and now I can use it to paint on my raster. So that's basically what it does. Okay. So the next one is the ruler tool. The name implies it basically takes measurements, can work on any layer, on vector layers. You can use it to make measurements when you're using different programs and you want to keep proportions of your characters. So the next is the control point editor, which only works for vector. And this one, it basically manipulates the nodes of any vector object or shape. I can move this around here, and that's what it does. So the next tool is the the pinch tool. I can use it to drag out objects in different ways I want. It basically pinches and drags objects in the direction of the pinch. That's what it does. Well, here we have the pump tool, which, well, it increases the stroke width of an object, like so. So wherever I have the pump is where it increases from. Okay. So next we have the magnet tool. The magnet tool is basically a pinch tool with rated precision. So instead of pinching the entire thing, just pinches a small fraction of it, like so. So the next tool is the bender tool. The bender tool is kind of an awkward tool. So let's take this blue line for example, right? I'm going to tap here and this end of the blue line, and then, okay, it didn't work this time. Tap here, this end of the blue line. Okay, So what the bender tool does is basically that it kind of rotates the object about an axis. It basically bends an object towards a direction, like it's kind of a rotation. So next we have the iron tool. So this tool, it basically smoothens out vector objects. Okay. So let's say look at how many nodes they are. They're countless. It's so rough. Let's say you want it to be a little bit smoother. Use the iron tool and kind of flatten it out to give it a smoother look. You can see how there are subtle shifts and changes as I'm using the iron tool. That's what the iron tool does. There'll still be a lot of nodes, but from on the vector shape, but you see that it's actually kind of looking smoother now than previously. So so next is the cutter tool. The cutter tool is basically used to cut an object. Like here, I just tapped the blue line, but now you see that the blue line is divided. This is also you can also only use this in a vector layer. So we have the skeleton tracker hook and a mesh tool. I'll be going over these in another tutorial. These ones are actually really massive and they'll take a lot of time to do. We have the zoom tool, which is basically to zoom in and out. I just drag in and out by left clicking, and this is what it does. Okay. Then we have the rotate tool. You can rotate it in any weird direction you want. Let's say you can't get it to rotate back on the exact way you want. What do you do? Don't worry. Right here, this button is reset view. I just tap it and it resets the view back to the original view when you open the program. So here we have the hand tool, which is used to move around and navigate. So thanks for watching. If you want to watch the video where I actually use these to make an animation, click the link in the description and have a blessed day. Bye.